The warm, murky waters of the Amazon River, teeming with life and danger at every turn. Somewhere beneath the surface in a hidden patch of vegetation, a mother piranha lays hundreds, sometimes thousands of eggs. You'd think this is the beginning of an epic, blood-soaked journey to becoming one of nature's most fearsome predators. Wrong. It's the start of an ongoing nightmare. As a baby piranha, or fry, your life begins with betrayal. Those eggs you hatched alongside? Yeah, they're not your siblings. They're your competition, and they're already plotting your demise. The first thing you learn after hatching is that nothing in this world is sacred. Not family, not friendship, not even the tiny shred of decency that might make life bearable. Your brothers and sisters? They'll eat you alive if you so much as blink wrong. You might think, well, at least mom and dad are around to help. Hilarious. Your parents? They're guarding the nest, sure, but not because they care about you. They're just trying to keep the neighborhood predators from snacking on their reproductive effort. But don't think they won't help themselves to a few of their own offspring when hunger strikes. That's right. Your first major life threat comes from the two fish who created you. It's like being born into a family dinner where the menu is whoever swims the slowest. The Amazon River isn't exactly a welcoming nursery. There's no plush crib or gentle lullabies here, just mud, debris, and things trying to kill you. If it's not a larger fish swallowing you whole, it's a bird diving in and scooping you out like a casual snack. You're tiny, defenseless, and squishy, a three-course meal wrapped in a tail. Even the plants don't feel safe. Sure, they might offer some cover, but there's always the chance another fry is lurking there, waiting to bite you in half. And speaking of biting, let's address the whole piranhas are vicious killers myth. As a baby, you're not tearing through flesh or starring in a B-grade horror movie. You're hiding, darting, and scavenging like a coward because that's all you can do. Your meals? They're nothing glamorous. If you're lucky, you'll find some algae or maybe the rotting carcass of something that died long before you were born. It's not exactly the kind of diet that inspires fear. Meanwhile, the odds of surviving long enough to grow even a little are laughable. Of the hundreds of eggs laid, only a tiny handful will make it past the first week. The rest? Eaten by their siblings, their parents, or whatever else happens to swim by. Every day is a battle, and most of your kind will lose it before they've had a chance to understand what's going on. Imagine waking up every morning unsure if you'll survive breakfast, not because there's no food, but because you are the food. You'd think that maybe, just maybe, things would get better if you managed to survive those first few chaotic days. They don't. By then, you're a little bigger, but still utterly unimpressive. You're still at the mercy of larger fish and birds, and you've got the added joy of knowing that the bigger you get, the more your own kind might see you as a threat worth eliminating. There's no winning here. And what about your parents? Oh, they're gone. Long gone. They've either moved on to another nest or are busy pretending you don't exist. Parental care isn't a concept in the piranha world. It's every fry for itself. And if you're still holding out hope that mom or dad might come back to help you out of a tight spot, let me save you some time. They won't. If anything, they might show up to eat you if they're feeling a little peckish. So here you are, a tiny fry in a giant river, surrounded by creatures that either don't care you exist or actively want to see you dead. There's no guidance, no protection, no warm and fuzzy coming-of-age montage where you discover your potential. You're just there, swimming for your life and trying not to think too hard about how utterly bleak your existence is. Somewhere far away, humans watch documentaries and marvel at how deadly piranhas are. They think you're the villain of the river, the creature that strikes fear into everything it encounters. If only they knew. You're not a villain. You're just a fish trying not to die every 5 seconds. The real villains? Probably your parents, or that one sibling who bit off half your tail the moment you hatched. And yet somehow, despite all of this, a few of you will make it. A few lucky fry will dodge the birds, outswim their cannibalistic siblings, and avoid the snapping jaws of larger fish. They'll grow up to become adult piranhas, the so-called terror of the river. But even then, life doesn't get much better. Sure, you're bigger and more capable of defending yourself, but now you've got a target on your back. Bigger predators, fishermen, and even other piranhas will make sure you never get too comfortable. Being born a piranha isn't about glory or dominance. It's about surviving in a world that seems specifically designed to destroy you. It's messy, brutal, and downright unfair. And honestly, it kind of sucks. Life as a young piranha doesn't magically transform into a joyful adventure after you survive your hatching nightmare. Oh no. If you thought being born was bad, wait until you grow up a little and realize that being a juvenile piranha is just a continuation of the misery with a few added layers of existential dread. You've made it past the first death trap, sure, but now you're stuck in what can only be described as nature's version of a poorly scripted survival reality show. By now you've grown a bit bigger and your teeth are starting to come in, those famous razor-sharp chompers that people love to panic about. You'd think this would be a game changer, but no. You're not feasting on grand meals or living up to your Hollywood reputation. You're scavenging. That's right. Rotting meat, scraps left over from bigger predators, or the occasional unlucky fish that can't swim fast enough. If you ever wonder what it's like to be nature's garbage disposal, just ask a young piranha. Oh wait, you are one. Even worse, this whole survival of the fittest nonsense doesn't give you a break. Every day you're dodging larger predators who see you as a handy snack. Birds, caimans, river dolphins, and even your fellow piranhas will gladly take a bite out of you. You've gone from being an egg in a death lottery to being a slightly bigger piece of bait. Your new skill set, nibbling things more effectively, doesn't change the fact that you're still very edible. And let's not forget your own kind. By now, you've realized that living in a group, or a shoal, is not the warm and fuzzy community experience it sounds like. You're not hanging out with your buddies and strategizing how to tackle life together. No, you're stuck with a gang of equally desperate fish, all of whom are one bad meal away from turning on each other. Imagine constantly looking over your shoulder because your coworker might decide you'd make a great lunch. That's your reality. The shoal exists because it's safer to travel in numbers. Predators are less likely to target a large group. But here's the catch. If a predator does show up, the group's safety strategy is to let the weakest or slowest member get eaten. And who's the weakest? Oh, it could be you. It's like being in a dysfunctional team-building exercise where the prize for failure is death. You're not a participant. You're a sacrifice waiting to happen. And don't even think about standing out. In a shoal, individuality is a death sentence. If you're too big, too small, too slow, or even just unlucky enough to catch the attention of something hungry, you're done. The goal is to blend in, to be as unremarkable as possible. That's not a life. It's a constant, exhausting exercise in mediocrity. Now, about those teeth. Everyone outside the river seems obsessed with them. Piranhas can strip a cow to the bone in minutes, they say. Well, sure, if a cow is dumb enough to wander into the river and also happens to already be dead. But let me tell you a secret. Piranhas don't want to work that hard. Stripping something to the bone takes effort, and effort burns energy, and energy isn't easy to come by when you're living on scraps. Your teeth are more of a survival tool than a weapon of mass destruction. You use them to nibble, to intimidate, and occasionally to fight off other fish when they decide you look a little too delicious. Speaking of fights, the world of a young piranha is full of them. Forget fair duels or noble battles. This is chaos. If another fish invades your personal space, you're either biting or getting bitten. It's a constant, teeth-gnashing struggle for territory, food, and the faintest illusion of control over your miserable existence. And no one's keeping score. Even if you win, the prize is just more stress and maybe a bite mark or two that'll remind you how much everything sucks. But let's talk about the real kicker. Your reputation. Humans who love to romanticize or vilify everything have turned you into a monster. They call you savage, bloodthirsty, and terrifying. Entire movies have been made about your so-called feeding frenzies, as if that's your default setting. Meanwhile, you're out here struggling to stay alive, dodging predators, scavenging for scraps, and hoping you don't accidentally make eye contact with the wrong fish. Being a piranha isn't about being deadly, it's about being desperate. And yet, despite all this, humans fear you. Some of them refuse to even step into rivers where you live, as if you're lying in wait to strip the flesh from their bones. If only they knew you'd much rather nibble on something dead and rotting than waste your energy attacking something alive. You're not a villain, you're just trying to make it through the day without becoming someone else's lunch. Even when humans do interact with you, it's rarely in a way that benefits you. They catch you for sport, poke and prod you in aquariums, and tell exaggerated stories about your supposed viciousness. Some of them even kill you for no reason other than fear. It's like the entire world has conspired to make your life as miserable as possible. And don't even get me started on the environment. Pollution, habitat destruction, overfishing. Humans are doing their best to make sure the Amazon becomes an even harder place to survive. If the predators and your own kind don't get you, the toxic sludge probably will. You'd think being a feared predator would come with some perks, but nope. You're at the mercy of forces far beyond your control. and those forces don't care whether you live or die. So here you are, a young piranha, not quite an adult but no longer a helpless fry. You're stuck in a brutal cycle of scavenging, fighting, and avoiding death at every turn. There's no time to reflect, no time to dream, and definitely no time to enjoy anything. You're just surviving, day by day, in a world that seems designed to break you. If you're lucky, and I mean really lucky, you'll make it to adulthood. But don't get your hopes up, because even then, the nightmare doesn't end. If you've managed to claw your way into adulthood as a piranha, congratulations. Or, condolences. You've survived being an egg that no one wanted, a juvenile that everyone wanted to eat, and now you're here, an adult piranha. The so-called peak of your existence. Spoiler alert, it's not. Life hasn't gotten easier, it's just become a slightly different flavor of terrible. As an adult, you're bigger and stronger, which sounds great until you realize this just means you're a more noticeable target. Sure, you're not as vulnerable as you were when you were tiny, but don't get cocky. Birds of prey still think you look like a tasty snack, caimans wouldn't mind munching on you, and humans? Oh, they've got entire fishing trips planned around pulling you out of the water and laughing at your misfortune. Your size might have increased, but so have your problems. And then there's the matter of food. You'd think being at the top of the river's scary fish hierarchy would mean an all-you-can-eat buffet, but no. You're still scavenging most of the time. Sure, every now and then you might get a shot at something fresh. A small fish, an injured bird, maybe even a larger prey if you and your shoal gang up on it. But more often than not, you're just chewing on leftovers or whatever garbage floats by. You're not a hunter, you're an opportunist. And guess what? That cow everyone loves to talk about you stripping to the bone? It probably fell into the river half dead and bloated, and you and your friends were just cleaning up the mess. Hardly the glamorous massacre people imagine. Speaking of your friends, the shoal is still very much a thing. Remember how you thought things might improve once you got older? Yeah, no. The dynamics have shifted a little, sure. Now you're one of the bigger, stronger fish. But that just means you've gone from being someone else's potential meal to constantly watching your back to make sure the smaller ones don't turn on you. It's like graduating from a horrible entry-level job to a slightly less horrible middle management position. The stress is still there. It's just a different flavor. And let's not pretend the shoal is some tight-knit family. It's a survival mechanism, nothing more. You don't trust anyone, and no one trusts you. The second there's a food shortage, it's every piranha for themselves. You've seen it happen. Those same fish you've been swimming alongside for years will tear each other apart without a second thought. You'd do the same if it came down to it. Loyalty? Friendship? Those are luxuries for creatures that don't live in a constant state of eat or be eaten. Oh, and let's not forget the romantic side of things, because yes, as an adult piranha, you're expected to reproduce and carry on the cycle of misery. But romance in the piranha world is about as appealing as everything else in your life. There's no courting, no love songs, no tender moments. It's all aggression and chaos like everything else. If you're a male, you're fighting off other males for the chance to mate. If you're a female, you're laying eggs and hoping the male you picked isn't too useless to fertilize them properly. Either way, there's no joy in it, just an instinctive urge to perpetuate this endless nightmare. And don't even get me started on parenting. You'd think bringing new life into the world would be a noble endeavor, but let's be real. It's just creating more little victims for the river to devour. If you're a male, you'll guard the eggs for a while, but you're not doing it out of love. It's pure selfishness. You're protecting your genetic investment, and the second those eggs hatch, it's every fish for themselves. No bedtime stories, no lessons on how to survive. Just a quick, good luck, kid, hope you don't die immediately. Meanwhile, the river doesn't change. The predators are still out there, the water's still full of dangers, and the humans? Oh, they're still telling stories about how you're some mindless killing machine. People are terrified of you, but they don't respect you. They don't understand that you're not a monster. You're just a desperate creature trying to scrape together an existence in a world that's actively trying to kill you at every turn. And let's talk about humans for a moment. They're obsessed with you, but not in a good way. You're either a villain in their horror movies or a trophy in their fishing expeditions. They slap your face on t-shirts and postcards, using your image to sell fear and thrills. They dump their trash into your river, destroying your habitat, and then blame you when their livestock gets too close to the water and ends up as piranha food. It's always your fault, never theirs. The environmental situation isn't helping either. The river is changing and not for the better. Pollution, climate change, deforestation, all of it is making your already difficult life even harder. The water is getting warmer, the food is getting scarcer, and the predators are getting bolder. If you thought surviving as a young piranha was tough, try doing it now when the entire ecosystem is falling apart around you. And here's the real kicker. You're not even the scariest thing in the river. Sure, you've got sharp teeth and a bad reputation, but there are plenty of creatures in the Amazon that could wipe the floor with you. Anacondas, caimans, electric eels, they're the real badasses. You're just a mid-tier scavenger with a good PR team. So here you are, an adult piranha. You've survived against all odds, but for what? Your life is a constant struggle, your reputation is a lie, and your future is as bleak as your past. You're not a killer, you're a survivor. And survival, as you've learned, is an endless cycle of stress, hunger, and fear. But hey, at least you've got your teeth.